Merry Christmas, everyone. Welcome to Real Rebel. Today I am going to talk about my favorite Christmas movies of all time. But before I start, if this video makes you laugh or smile, please hit that like button. That helps this video get distributed across YouTube. Thanks. Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever. In 2014, this movie came out. This is a cutesy Hallmark movie with Aubrey Plaza supplying the voice of Grumpy Cat, and she befriends a young girl in a pet shop, and she's constantly overlooked, and apparently nobody realizes that this is a multi-million-dollar cat in real life. But look at that face. The generic plot involves some burglars and some general movie hijinks. This is a movie for Grumpy Cat lovers only. Worst movie ever! Jingle All the Way. It's not a good movie. Filmed in Minneapolis, St. Paul, supposedly near Christmas, but if there's snow on the ground, that really could be any time of the year. Arnold Schwarzenegger searches far and wide for a sold-out toy for his son, with Sinbad competing for the same toy. Where is Dwight Schrute when you need him? I think the clincher for me is Phil Hartman devouring Arnold's wife's cookies over the phone into Arnold's ear, to which Arnold replies, "Put the cookie down!" Just turn off your brain and enjoy. Charlie Brown Christmas. This 1965 classic animated special was developed in a very short period of time, and its makers thought it was going to be a disaster, but it was so well received that it's played at Christmas every single year. Charlie Brown is depressed at Christmas and doesn't know why until he discovers that his dismay comes from the over-commercialization of Christmas and people losing sight of its real meaning. His friends ridicule him when he buys a real tree instead of one of the aluminum trees that was in the same lot, one of these glittery trees. When Linus, however, recites the true meaning of Christmas and gives the tree some support from his trusty blanket, the kids decorate the tree and they treat Charlie Brown like the decent fellow human being that he is for once. The special was so popular that it decimated the aluminum Christmas tree business. Scrooge. This 1951 classic is a rendition of A Christmas Carol, and it starred Alastair Sim, and it's one of my favorite versions of this story. And as far as I'm concerned, Alastair Sim is Ebenezer Scrooge. The best part is the ending when he gets his second chance at life, and he goes around just as giddy as a schoolboy and laughing and everything. It's great. The Bishop's Wife. This 1947 film was recommended to me by a dear friend who adores black and white films and considers this her favorite Christmas movie. It's very sweet, and I think that the acting is the movie's strength, particularly Cary Grant as the angel sent to answer the bishop's prayers. The bishop is David Niven, and his wife is Loretta Young. Grant is there to help the bishop realize what a nozzle he's been by neglecting his wife, but in the process he falls in love with the bishop's wife himself. But out of love, he makes the right choice in the end, and the bishop's family understands what is really important in life. A gem. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now I'm referring to the Jim Carrey version, and it came out in the year 2000, and it's one of two films that I saw with just my dad in the movie theater, and the other one was Batman Returns, which could also be considered a Christmas movie. I really love Michelle Pfeiffer in that movie, but Danny DeVito's fish gurgling, slurping, green slobbering penguin was just a little bit too much for me, and I think my dad agreed. The Grinch is adorable and has excellent narration by Anthony Hopkins, and I love how the Grinch rejects Christmas after being viciously bullied for being different. The power of this film is the relationship between the Grinch and Cindy Lou Who, and her belief in him really helps his heart begin to grow and he forgives. I love this story and this version, and the animated versions are excellent as well. Santa Claus, the movie. This 1985 film is not to be confused with the Tim Allen vehicle, the Santa Claus. It bombed at the box office, bringing in less than half of its $50 million budget. And I was 4 years old when it came out, and I know I saw it in the theater because I remember my mom getting us McDonald's afterwards, and the movie was sponsored by McDonald's, and you could go there and they had all the books that correlated with the movie. This was the 1980s. E.T. had started the trend of product placement in movies, and this movie, seriously, there is literally a McDonald's commercial in the middle of the movie, and it's kind of funny. To me, this is Santa Claus, and he's played perfectly by David Huddleston, who also played the Big Lebowski. And I love Santa's Workshop. The fun elves and Mrs. Claus is great too. The real fun begins with Patch, the elf played by Dudley Moore.
Look like one of Santa's helpers.
And he leaves the North Pole and joins up with an evil toy maker, Beezy, played devilishly by John Lithgow. And John Lithgow doesn't just chew the scenery, he breaks it off in gigantic chunks, and he gobbles it up in a performance only rivaled by his over-the-top portrayal of Dick Solomon in Third Rock from the Sun. Christmas 2! It's a fun movie with a big heart, real trained reindeer, and it's got Burgess Meredith as the ancient elf, and a song at the end that's amusingly repetitive. Yay. Love Actually. This movie came out in 2003, and I found that it is a love or hate movie. I personally love it. I can see why people wouldn't like it. It has a very kind of British sort of humor, and some of the stories in it I don't really care for, but there are other stories in it that I love. I think that the Billy Mack character is the most fun, and he's the most quotable. My favorite couples are Colin Firth and Aurelia. And they don't speak the same language, but they fall in love anyway because they develop an understanding for each other. Hugh Grant is the Prime Minister, and his aide, Natalie, they are stonkin' adorable. And then there's another couple, and this is more of a sad couple. It's played by Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman allows himself to be seduced by his harlot secretary, and in one of the best scenes in the movie, he's trying to buy a necklace for this secretary, and Rowan Atkinson is gift wrapping it for him, but he's taking his sweet ass time, and he takes so long that Emma Thompson, the wife, catches on that he's buying something at the jewelry counter thinking it's for herself, but then she discovers later it's actually for the secretary, and it breaks her heart. And when she realizes it, the scene where she has to pull herself together to go out to help her kids get onto their little Christmas pageant, and she's just they actually spend a good minute or a minute and a half in there in the bedroom with her where she's crying and just trying to pull herself together, realizing what's happened, and it's heartbreaking. And I think that Hugh Grant and his aide Natalie are my favorite. There's some other cute stories in there, but these were the ones that stood out as my favorite. Oh, and watch out for that cameo by Bad Santa. The Ref. This movie came out in 1994, and it's one of my favorites because it kind of shows the darker underbelly of family dysfunction. The Ref is played by Dennis Leary, and he's on the run after he's robbed the richest person in Connecticut, and he trips the alarm. And his encounter with the killer Rottweiler in the basement sets up one of the best reaction shots in film history. I could try to emulate it, but there's no way I can. I don't even know if Dennis Leary could try to emulate what he pulled off in that scene. And this movie is loaded with great lines and real moments of frustration with family around the holidays. And this movie is not for you if you want a lighthearted Christmas film. This one has edge, so you've been warned. Elf. 2003's Elf is a holiday film that's really grown on me over the years. I saw it once a long time ago. I thought it was cute and I moved on. But an old coworker told me it was his favorite Christmas movie of all time. And so after rewatching it, I caught on to the magic of Will Ferrell's Christmas enthusiast elf character named Buddy and the undeniable chemistry between him and his long-lost father, played by James Caan. Buddy just wanted to be loved and share his love of Christmas with others. He's funny, relatable, heartwarming, and now I need to watch it every year. While You Were Sleeping, 1995. Sandra Bullock was the it girl in the mid-90s thanks to the runaway success of 1994's action vehicle Speed, starring Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. While You Were Sleeping is adorable, and it's filled with likable characters. I love Sandra as the sweet token collector named Lucy in the Windy City, and she's hopelessly in love with a train commuter whom she's never met. She saves his life after he's mugged and he's left for dead on the train tracks, and through some misunderstandings, she ends up making his family believe that she's his fiance so she can see him in the hospital. And this movie is just cute overload, and it works because the acting is solid, there's plenty of comedy, and it's a joy to watch around the holidays or anytime you want to feel all warm and cozy. Guess what's next? P2! This 2007 Christmas thriller is about a young businesswoman trapped in a parking garage of her office building by the unhinged security guard who's madly in love with her. He also later sings Elvis Presley's Blue Christmas as Angela takes out all the security cameras with an axe. And the part that gets my heart is the featured car, the silver four-door Pontiac Sunfire, nearly identical to my two-door silver Pontiac Sunfire that I had in college. And there's no way that that car could take that corner in real life. Anyway, I think I've promoted P2 as much as I can. Watch it for me, please. Gremlins came out in 1984. This surprise hit horror film features the cutest little pet gone very wrong. And the Mogwai comes with explicit instructions not to get it wet, not to expose it to sunshine, and not to feed it after midnight. And Billy, his new owner, manages to violate 2 of the 3 rules in less than 24 hours, and the evil, awful Mogwai pop out of little Gizmo, and they inevitably become the Gremlins promised by the film's title. I love how Christmassy this movie is. There's kind of like a haze of Christmas over the lens of this movie. The film was a smash hit. It made $150 million in 1984 against an $11 million budget. At director Joe Dante's insistence, and to Steven Spielberg's dismay, the infamous ill-fated story Phoebe Cates tells of her father pretending to be Santa and not quite making it down the chimney was left in the movie, and it gives another edge to the realm of horror. This film and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom are credited with the MPAA creating the PG-13 rating, since it was too violent for the PG rating, but not quite violent enough to give it a rated R. There's so much fun to be had, and my favorite part is when the Gremlins take on the town Scrooge, Mrs. Deagle, and they see her house going, Deagle, 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 Deagle. And they send her flying out of her own house on her electric stair chair. What a way to go. Ooh, this one's controversial. Die Hard, 1988. Is it a Christmas film or is it not? Well, many argue in favor that it is a Christmas film, including myself, and while others lament that it's merely an action film that just happens to be set at Christmas. There's plenty of other videos on the subject, but I will say this. It's got a big Christmas tree, and it takes place at a Christmas party at John McClane's part-time wife's place of employment. Ode to Joy and Let It Snow are featured in the film. Hans Gruber, not actually a terrorist, but a money-loving bank robber, is simply put this film's Ebenezer Scrooge. And in one of my favorite bits, John McClane leaves Hans Gruber a little note, and he reads it in that wonderful Alan Rickman voice. Dear Santa, I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. Freaking Snape! After McClane saves the day, hundreds of sheets of Xerox papers float through the air to the ground, undoubtedly reminiscent of snowflakes. And we get to see Bruce Willis running around all bloody, muscular, tough as nails. Merry Christmas to me. Is that Ash trying to get in? You want in here? Come here. Come on, come on. Well, guess who came to visit? Mr. Grumpy Cat himself. There he is. Hi, Bubba. Hi. Hi, everybody. Oh, look at the Bubba. He's such a good boy. Merry Christmas, little guy. You want a little hat? Do you want a little hat? Do you want a little hat? He goes, stop. I hate you, Mama. Feed me. Oh, I love my Bubba. Scrooged. This movie came out in 1988, and it's a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and the sadistic Frank Cross is brilliantly played by Bill Murray. He ad-libbed most of his lines, and it shows in a good way, and it's a dark retelling. Now, Roger Ebert only gave this movie 1 star, which is the equivalent of olives, and he called it forced and depressing, and I can see where he's coming from. This movie is harsh, and it's rough around the edges, and Bill Murray is a good actor, and he's still in love with Karen Allen's character, and he regrets his past, and he misses the love there, and he sees what he's missing out in the present. 2 other Murray brothers are in this movie playing Bill Murray's family, and I thought that was a nice touch. He's horrified by the visions of his future, and he begs to live for another chance. On a side note, I loved Carol Kane in this. She plays the ghost of Christmas Present, and she's so playful and abusive towards Frank. See, at the end, Bill Murray has what I call a nervous breakdown on camera, and I really don't care. I love his rant, and I believe it was sincere. I think it was coming from a real place, from a troubled man with a great heart deep down inside. I mean, he's a Cubs fan, so he rocks. A Christmas Story. This 1983 timeless classic has grown on me year after year, and I always liked it, but as I got older, I appreciated it more and more, and I think it's the pure nostalgia and Ralphie's just being a kid at Christmas who wants nothing more than a BB gun. His parents are worn out, but they do their best, and Ralphie's reaction to Santa when he pushes him down the slide as he says, "You'll shoot your eye out," is priceless. And of course, oh, fudge. It always induces the heartiest of laughter. And most of all, Ralphie, come back! Ralphie, come back! Does Ralphie help out his tongue-tied friend? Heck no. Why? Bell rang! Come on, Ralphie, come back, come back. The bell rang! It's pure joy, and I love it. Home Alone 1 and 2. Let's start with the first. Number 1, the score. John Williams nails it, as always. This movie sounds like Christmas. In 1990, I saw this in the theater, and Macaulay Culkin and I are nearly the same age, and the thought of being left alone, I probably would have done the exact same things. I would have eaten junk food, I would have watched rubbish. Kevin has to pull together his resources to overcome his fear of the furnace and defend his home from Joe Pesci. I mean, would you go up against Joe Pesci? Catherine O'Hara is pitch perfect as the frazzled and loving, yet slightly forgetful mother. And a point of amusement is the O'Hare Airport. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I've been there many times. And you get to see what it was like before 9/11 when you could run around and not get held up at TSA lines. Where are all the cramped terminals and last-minute gate changes? Kevin sets up elaborate traps in 1 hour, and with all that planning, he still doesn't get to enjoy that way too good-looking plate of microwavable macaroni and cheese dinner that he bought on sale. There are good-hearted moments, and did you ever notice that the McAllister house is completely covered in red and green? This movie is Christmas. Home Alone 2. Okay, to me, when I saw this when I was 11, and I thought, how cool would it be to be on my own in New York City, stay at the plaza, and get room service? Macaulay Culkin is my idol. The best part? Tim Curry, Rob Schneider, and Dana Ivey steal this movie, in my opinion. I kind of wish that they were the ones who had to go through the traps. And that scene in the hotel room is the funniest in the film, mostly because of Tim Curry's reactions. The traps are amazing. The bricks of certain death and electrocution of Marv are my favorite. Chris Columbus, the director, laughed so hard during that filming of the electrocution scene that he couldn't say cut to end it. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. 1989's holiday classic. Honestly, I think you'd have to kind of grow up with this movie or see it around the time it came out to really love it. In the last few years, I've watched it with people who have never seen it before, and they're kind of like, it was okay. I never really get oh, that's a classic. I'm going to watch that every year. It's one of my favorites because I grew up with it. I love how Clark Griswold wants a big, fun, old-fashioned family Christmas with all his relatives, and the second they show up, he wants nothing to do with them. He has this big fantasy of what Christmas is supposed to be, from the dinner to the tree to the Christmas lights, the pool as a present. He pulls out all the stops, and everything fails before it all ends up working out. Cousin Eddie is that relative or the in-law that's disgusting, and he's always asking for money. But the best part, in my opinion, is Aunt Bethany and Uncle Lewis. And Aunt Bethany is played by Mae Questel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, she voiced the character Betty Boop. And William Hickey also, he voiced the evil scientist in The Nightmare Before Christmas. And they steal the movie. The blessing! The movie has heart, it's relatable, and I lose it when Chevy Chase takes off in that sled down that hill, and I have that department store scene completely memorized. It's meaningful, just like the Christmas star. That ain't the friggin' Christmas star, Grizz. That's the light of the sewage treatment plant. Sewer gas. Don't drop that! Miracle on 34th Street. This 1947 holiday classic, it has one of the best portrayals of Santa Claus, earning actor Edmund Gwenn an Academy Award for his performance. Maureen O'Hara is superb as Doris, the loving yet somewhat cynical mother who raises her daughter Susan to be realistic, while the conflicting values of wonder and imagination come from Santa and the neighbor attorney played by John Payne. Natalie Wood is one of the most talented child actors I have ever seen in a film. She acts very wise and skeptical, conveying many emotions that a lot of adult actors have a hard time playing. She did it perfectly. Interestingly, Maureen O'Hara claimed that little Natalie was quite unlike the skeptical character that she played. She was very fun-loving, and she actually believed that Edmund Gwenn was the actual Santa Claus. And in the end, all the actors believed that he was Santa, and it shows. The part that really wins me over is the scene in the courtroom when Santa is reading a letter from Doris, telling him that she believed in him. That's all he ever really wanted. And in the end, everyone believes in Santa, including little Susan. I think that the theme of this film is believing in someone else, believing in an idea, believing in others, and truly believing in another person is one of the best gifts that we can give to someone else. It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life is a well-made and well-told story of an ambitious, good-hearted man named George Bailey, played perfectly by Jimmy Stewart. He wants to escape the confines of his small hometown and see the world and go to college and have many adventures. But through a series of events, he keeps getting held back. He keeps getting stuck in this little town, taking over his father's savings and loan. And a lot of it is because he's the only person in town who has the guts to stand up to the evil Mr. Potter, who's played by Lionel Barrymore, who is actually Drew Barrymore's great uncle. This film invests a lot of time showing how George keeps sinking deeper and deeper into this permanent life in his hometown. He's always doing the right thing, kind of resenting some of his friends and his brother for having fancier things and more accolades than he does. After a horrendous mistake is made at the savings and loan by his uncle, later on, it leaves George facing complete failure, possibly jail time. He hits rock bottom and he thinks that his life is over. Now, like I said, they invested a lot of time building this up, and really it's only in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the film that the infamous part comes out where Clarence, the angel, comes to show him what life would have been like if George had never existed. And that's why it works, is because they did such a good job building it up. So in the end, George realizes all of the wonderful things in his life, his wife and his kids, and how he just wants them back regardless of the consequences. And the ending shows that his life wasn't pointless at all, and that people can really come together and they can help one another, just like George had helped them all along. And I gotta say that George, actually, I think he's married to an angel, because Mary, the woman that he marries in the film, she ends up saving the day several times, and she's wonderful. I love her so much. She helps out the townspeople. She renovates their home. She just kind of comes to the rescue all the time. So what George doesn't realize is that he's actually married to an angel. You just can't see her wings. And there's also that great scene where George goes over to Mary's house, and he's really trying to suppress his feelings for her because he doesn't want to get drawn in. He doesn't want to get stuck in this town. But that scene where they're holding that old-fashioned telephone where you have to stick that thing on your ear and talk into the little piece. Oh my gosh, there is so much tension there between Mary and George, and they just can't help it. They're gonna fall in love and they're just gonna be together. And Jimmy Stewart, he was just magical. This is like the best Christmas film of all time, so I really encourage you to watch it. I believe it's free on Prime right now if you have Prime. And I just want to say, I want to give all of the movies on my Christmas list 4 cat paws. Yay! And then there's also another couple that's played by Emma Thompson and Rick